Good afternoon. Thank you, everybody, for being here this morning, this afternoon. For the past several weeks, at the request of our, can't hear me? Is it on? Is this one broadcast? Okay. All right. How about that? Can you hear me now? It's better. I can yell. For the past several weeks, at the request of our city council, many of which are here today, the police department has been investigating the Columbus Animal Care and Control. The investigation will be an essential part of reestablishing trust within the community and creating partnerships that will move us towards a more compassionate and humane solution to providing animal care and control. Deputy Chief Deaton will share the details of the investigation to the extent possible without compromising the integrity of the investigation. He'll be followed by City Manager Isaiah Hughley, who will share options and ideas for moving forward to provide Columbus animal care and control services in the future. Once Mr. Hughley is through, we'll be opening it up to questions from the media. And if any of the citizens have questions, we'll stay around and try to answer those as well. Deputy Chief.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Let me just start by saying a thank you to the investigative team that has spent the last 3 months investigating Columbus Animal Care and Control at the request of Columbus City Council. Sergeant Jane Edenfield, to my right here, Corporal Krista Gross, and Corporal Jonathan McKelvey were assigned to investigate this particular case. They were chosen to investigate this case by myself and the chief because of their diverse investigative background and their ability to remain fair and impartial through the investigation. I would also be remiss if I didn't take an opportunity to thank the DEA, the Secretary of State, and the District Attorney's Office, all of which were an integral part of this investigation. Each one of them lended a significant amount of support and guidance through this particular investigation. So thank you very much to all of them. Over the course of this investigation, we've investigated over 30 separate complaints involving the CACC. Some of these complaints have been sustained. Some have already been fixed. And some have been unsubstantiated. So over the course of this 3 months, we've looked at these complaints very closely, and it's kind of run the gamut here. Some of them are valid, some of them are not valid, some of them we just didn't have enough information to say one way or the other, and that's what all that means. The 3-month-long investigation has uncovered many policy, best practice violations, of which will be addressed as part of the investigation and the documentation of this case. This investigation also uncovered multiple criminal violations that are part of the Georgia State Codes that are designed to establish legal guidelines and responsibilities as it relates to the care of animals in your care and custody. As of this afternoon, 8 employees of the Columbus Animal Care and Control have been arrested on a combined 34 criminal charges. We have included a packet for each of you that outlines the people arrested and their charges. At this time, I'll go over the individuals and the charges that they have been charged with. Dr. Henry Hall, veterinarian, forgery in the first degree, false statements and writings. Ms. Kenita Hardnett Johnson, manager, theft by deception, false statements and writings, animal cruelty, euthanasia, violation of oath of office, and disposal of deceased animals. Katrina Pearson, administrative coordinator, animal cruelty, euthanasia, disposal of deceased animals, and violation of oath of office. Alexander Pimentel, lieutenant, euthanasia, leaving animals unattended, false statements and writings, violation of oath, and disposal of deceased animals. Tanil Tolliver, corporal, false statements and writings, and violation of oath. James Elliott, is an animal control officer. False statements in writings, violation of oath. Elizabeth Rodriguez is office and kennel staff, forgery in the second degree. False statements in writings, euthanasia, and violation of oath. And Philip Copeland is an animal control officer with failure to scan for microchips. So as you can see with these charges, there is a host of different charges related to these cases. Some of these charges are code sections that some of you may not have heard of before. They're certainly not code sections that are used on a regular basis, but nevertheless, they are part of the Georgia statute and the Georgia code, and they're there for a reason. In closing, I'd like to say that even as this case has had arrests made in it, it still remains under investigation and it still remains open. I would ask that you continue to be patient, allow us to finish this as we've started it, as we remain vigilant to be transparent in the investigation, but to also be thorough and fair as we move through the end of this process. Thank you all for attending, and Mr. Mayor, I'll turn it back over to you. City Manager, I'm sorry.
Good afternoon. Regarding current operations of the Columbus Animal Care Control Facility, considering current developments related to the CPD investigation that has led to several CACC employees being placed on leave of absence, we do not have enough employees left at CACC to continue operating the facility as we have done in the past to remain in compliance with the requirements of the Department of Agriculture. Therefore, I have weighed our options. Make severe adjustments in operations effective immediately to remain in compliance with the Department of Agriculture requirements. Expedite our request for proposal process to privatize the Columbus Animal Care Control Facility and operations, or exercise my authority as city manager to execute an emergency purchase by bypassing the request for proposal RFP process. I have elected to execute an emergency purchase, select a vendor, and seek City Council approval to move forward. I've had appropriate staff to approach a reputable and well-known organization in this community and region. An organization we actually completed a request for a proposal process and selected a few years back, but that process did not move forward at that time. That organization is Paul's Humane. Over the last 24 hours, we have revisited with Paul's Humane to discuss the opportunity to contract all Columbus Animal Care Control services and operations through that organization. I received an email confirmation from Paul's Humane this morning. That email received from Paul's reads as follows. Paul's Humane Society is interested in taking over the management of both the shelter and field services of animal care and control, contingent on the level of funding the city is prepared to allocate. Based on preliminary figures, the email reads, we estimate that approximately $3.5 million would be necessary to properly fund these services and ensure successful operations. And I will pause to say that our current budget is $2.1 million for that division. But the letter or email reads on to say this amount would cover the entire scope of operations. However, if certain elements such as building maintenance or insurance remain under the city's responsibility, the funding requirements could be adjusted accordingly. All terms are open for negotiation, the email reads. We would prefer an initial contract term of 3 years, with the option to renew for 5-year terms thereafter. Please let us know how you would like to proceed. Thank you, Courtney Pierce, who's the executive director of Paul's Humane, Inc. And I will share with those who, if you're not familiar, Paul's Humane Society was established in 2009 as a private 501c3 nonprofit organization with a profound commitment to enhancing the well-being of both animals and humans. In 1999, a passionate group of animal advocates came together to form Paul's Columbus. A decade later, the merger of these two dedicated groups gave rise to Paul's Humane, Inc., also known as Paul's Humane Society. Paul's Humane is an independent organization. They rely wholeheartedly on the generous contributions from local foundations and individuals in our community. They are ready to step in and take over city operations. We will immediately enter negotiations with Paul's Humane and will present to the mayor and council for final action. We believe we can start the transition with Paul's Humane as soon as we receive approval from the mayor and council. And we believe we can complete the transition in 90 days or less, and Paul's Humane agrees that we should be able to do it in 90 days or less. Please note, until we reach a final agreement with Paul's Humane and we can receive approval from the mayor and council, the following services will be altered or discontinued due to a staffing shortage. You've heard from CPD, and you heard about the 8 employees that will not be able to work during this time. And they were already short a number of employees. They have a total of 25 positions funded. We have 12 positions at this time that we don't have employees working in those positions. And so it will require that services be altered or discontinued due to staff shortage until we are able to finalize this emergency purchase agreement that I mentioned to you. So close the facility to public for intake processes. Owner surrender services, lost and found, as well as injured sick animals will cease immediately. Residents will be directed to call Paul's Humane for rehoming and or medical services, as well as other local rescues. Animal nuisance calls will be dispatched to the Columbus Police Department. We will conduct limited off-site adoption events. The Columbus Animal Care and Control Facebook page will allow for the remaining animals to be displayed for adoption until the facility is completely empty. Again, this temporary closure and reduction in services will be temporary until the emergency service purchase process is finalized with Paul's Humane. And we certainly hope that we can accomplish this in less than 90 days. Things to note: the facility is currently at capacity, and we have a shortage of shelter officers to care for animals. Therefore, we do not believe we should take in more animals considering the situation that we have before us. Columbus Animal Care Control leadership. During the transition, the director and deputy director of public works will oversee the facility. Remaining shelter staff will continue to place and or have the animals currently in the facility either placed or adopted until empty or until it is taken over by Paul's Humane. Enforcement. We recommend local ordinances be handled by CPD, and there has been conversation with them. Remaining field animal control officers will continue to respond to emergency calls with the goal of working with the owners to maintain their animals at home, providing or referring owners to nonprofits for placement assistance, etc. Shelter animals will continue to be cared for, cleaning, monitoring, feeding, watering, and working to place these animals in various shelters or rescues until all have been placed. Medical care for the existing animals housed in the facility. We will continue to take them to various veterinary offices as required or until all animals have been placed. And I say to you that when we take them to the local veterinarians, we pay their medical expense. The deceased animal truck will continue to operate under the Waste Collection Division by answering 911 deceased animal calls inside Muskogee County. We ask for your understanding and support during this transition period, and we will work hard to expedite this process, getting it approved by council, this emergency purchase, and getting it done in 90 days or less with Paul's Humane. We are open to constructive input and volunteers to assist us with this transition. Thank you, and that is what I have in terms of the status or state of where we go from here, considering the situation before us. Thank you.
Is there any questions of Lance or Deputy Chief Deaton or the city manager? Media first.
Question, would there be an explanation or transparency of why Paul is going to charge an additional $1.5 million to operate on the budget that we've been paying? And if we approve and agree, where would that additional money come from?
Well, let me just note that Paul's presented the $3.5 million without negotiation, and they did qualify 3.5 by saying if the city maintains the buildings, insurance, and so forth, that number perhaps would not be $3.5 million. And certainly, we anticipate that we will maintain the buildings as we do when we work with other partners. We will do building maintenance and so forth and cover the building. And so, as we prepare to negotiate with Paul's Humane, the number might not be 3.5, but it could be close. We know, at least, that I don't believe animal care, Columbus Animal Care Control, was funded to the level we would like to see it funded. And so, certainly, if we are going to partner with Paul's Humane, I believe we need to give them the resources that we don't find ourselves in a similar situation that we're in today.
When is the next scheduled city council meeting?
Well, the next scheduled meeting is next Tuesday on October 8th. And so that agenda will go out tomorrow, and we don't know yet what will be on that agenda. This very well could be on the agenda. Just the authorization to negotiate and move forward as I've outlined in my information shared with you today.
Why did the city wait to place two workers for CPD under administrative leave, two of which have currently been arrested?
Well, in terms of administrative leave, we have a policy, and our policy is that unless you're charged with a felony, if you're charged with a felony, we're going to put you on leave of absence without pay. If you have not been charged with a felony and there are misdemeanors, we typically will put you on administrative leave with pay. And so we follow what is outlined in our City of Columbus personnel policies procedure.
One of the individuals I know has currently been charged with felony. Will they now lose administrative leave without pay?
Those who have been charged with a felony, or if we anticipated the charge coming based on information we received, they would have been put on leave of absence without pay.
It's been updated with this individual since, because the letter I received from y'all at the time showed that they were being paid placed on administrative leave.
Again, our policy is that if they're charged with a felony, that person will be put on leave of absence without pay. And if they've been charged, that will be their current situation.
Y'all are seeking input from the public on these processes going forward. What mechanisms are available if people want to reach out?
Well, I will say, as I said, I received earlier today what I read to you and what Paul's has put on the table. And so we will be having conversation with Paul's Humane, and we will talk to them about how they see best to include the public and advocates and so forth. And certainly we think they should be included. Again, we will be having a conversation with Paul's, and I have not had the conversation with them, and so we will be happy to provide you information as we understand.
Media first, and then we'll stick around and talk to them.
Yeah.
An email correspondence with you last week, you stated Trail Corp was still managing day-to-day operations.
Yes.
Is she still currently managing day-to-day operations in the meantime while y'all negotiate?
Yeah, that is what I said earlier. Yes, that's the case. Yes.
Might be a question for the police department, but these charges that were brought up, how far back did these alleged allegations back? When did the investigation start?
So we started the investigation in July. So this has been ongoing for 3 months. We have gone back about 12 months, looking at records and moving back to about 12 months. So over the last 12 months is where we've kind of landed on this particular case.
Do you think there will be a need to go further than 12 months in this?
We'll see. It depends on what else comes up during the rest of this investigation. We're still waiting to do a little bit of review on some additional records, and we'll make that determination at that time.
Are any more arrests expected?
As of right now, all 8 of the employees that had outstanding warrants have been arrested and processed through the system. I can't say right now whether there will be any additional ones. There could be, but right now, the 8 that had outstanding warrants have been arrested and processed.
Would you say that, or can you say from the video of one of the dogs being killed and going viral and the community requesting, the city council requesting, would you say that investigation wouldn't be happening without that call, or would this have been coming to that sooner or later?
Well, I think that's a question for somebody other than me. I think these complaints have been going on for quite some time, and it has led us here. What the single event that maybe straw that broke the camel's back, so to speak. I couldn't speak on that, but I do know the complaints go back for quite some time.
How many people have been here so far?
15 or 20.
When you say animal abuse, what does that look like? Is that physically abusing animals?
So it can be. What is currently charged, the 3 counts of animal cruelty that are charged right now, is based on the omission of care. So there's a part of the code section that requires a certain amount of care for animals if they're under your control. And these are the 3 most egregious of actions of omission. So we did look into some complaints of abuse, physical abuse of animals. We did not substantiate that, but so these 3 charges of animal cruelty are based on the omission of care. Yes.
Say that again, Neil. Yes. Well, certainly it's disappointing, I will say, but and I look forward to them having their day in court so that we can make sure that we have all of the information.
Why didn't you or Director Short or Deputy City Manager, why didn't y'all know that these abuses were going on? And why are you all still over the current situation when all of these abuses happened under your watch?
So let me say that our CCG is a large organization, and there may be occurrences in departments that we're not aware of. And when we find out about them, we have a responsibility to do something about them. And so I don't claim to know everything that goes on down in the ranks of the government, but I have a responsibility. When I find out, we find out, we're going to